In the nation of Canerica, a notorious bandit group known as the Laws had carried out a brazen act, hijacking the entire 2022 national budget money. This audacious move had not gone unnoticed, and it swiftly reached the ears of the country's president. His displeasure was palpable, and he left no room for equivocation when he summoned the chief of police to his villa. The president's demand was clear: the chief of police had 48 hours to apprehend the audacious thieves, or he would find his position vacant. This marked the third high-profile operation executed by the Laws against the nation, and the pressure was mounting. Departing the president's villa, the chief of police was seething with anger. His determined stride towards the police headquarters conveyed the gravity of the situation. However, as soon as he stepped out of his car, a throng of news reporters, ever eager for a statement, surrounded him. Their barrage of questions sought insight into the latest audacious heist, but the chief ignored them all, determined to reach the sanctuary of the police headquarters. Amidst the clamor, one reporter, named Quincy, dared to pose a provocative question. She asked whether the chief of police and his men would finally succeed in apprehending the Laws, or if the country should brace itself for another impending attack. The chief halted abruptly, his gaze fiery as it locked onto Quincy. Without missing a beat, he issued a terse but resolute response: "This is my reply to your question and also a message to the Laws. We are on your track, and this will surely be your last operation before the long arm of the law gets hold of you." Having delivered his message, the chief strode purposefully into the police headquarters, where officers quickly moved to shield the building from the persistent news reporters. Quincy, however, wore a triumphant smile as the chief of police disappeared into the imposing structure. The chief of police walked into the office of Detective Anthem, the lead investigator on the Laws case. "How far have you been on their track?" he asked Detective Anthem. The detective leading the investigation replied, "We are making progress, sir. We now know the possible number of," but was abruptly cut off by the chief of police. "Possible what?" the chief asked angrily. "I need the culprit, not their possible number. If I can get hold of one of them, I can get the possible number of them all. Do I make myself clear?" he screamed at the detective. "Yes, sir," the detective answered calmly. "So, how many are they?" the chief asked as the detective stared at him, appearing confused and unsure whether to respond. "How many are they?" the chief repeated, this time more furiously. The detective finally replied, 11, sir, 9 male and 2 female. "Is that all?" the chief asked, clearly disappointed. "Does any one of you have any other hint except their numbers?" he questioned, directing his frustration at all the officers present. 11 members crew, terrorizing a nation, while I have over 1,000 men, and all they could get me is their number. "Sir, we have found the car used in carrying out the crime," announced Detective Mitchell, an assistant to Detective Anthem on the Laws case. "Yes, what else? Did you find any fingerprints or anything that can lead us to them?" the chief asked, moving closer to her. "No, sir," Detective Mitchell replied. "All fingerprints were wiped off, but we are searching the CCTV cameras for any footage of them alighting from the car." The chief expressed his relief, saying, "Yes, I love this news," and added, "She's the only useful thing in your team," while nodding towards Detective Anthem. Turning to the other officers who were staring, the chief asked, "What are you staring at?" He yelled angrily, "Go back to work. I need footage, not eyes." As he headed for the door, Detective Mitchell called to get his attention. She handed over an iPad to him. He stared at the image displayed on the iPad, appearing confused. He zoomed out and in on the image, trying to disbelieve the evidence before him, but the customized license plate on the car clearly read President of the Federal Republic of Canerica. It was the presidential official car that was used in the robbery. The chief of police stepped into his office, making a beeline for his ringing phone. He needed no clairvoyant to tell him it was the president on the other end. "I hope you have the culprit in custody?" the president asked as soon as he picked up the phone. "No, Mr. President," he replied, "but we do have a possible lead on who the culprit might be. Also, the car used in the crime is now in our possession. My team is reviewing CCTV footage for any clues about the people in the car. President Kennedy let out a relieved breath, and the call ended. Detective Mitchell entered the office just as the chief of police hung up the phone. "Sir, we found footage of the car," she said. The car was initially seen leaving the presidential villa at 8 a.m., heading for Gregg Automobile Repairs, arriving 30 minutes later. It was then captured leaving Gregg Automobile Repairs at precisely 10:30 a.m., en route to Kangaroo Express, a location 5 kilometers from the Canerica Bank. "We believed they took this route to avoid detection." Pause, rewind, and zoom, the chief requested, fixated on the car's driver displayed on the projector. "And there they are," he said joyfully, "get me information about him. He's the missing piece I've been searching for." Scott Queen. "What a dull name for a thief," he exclaimed as he read out the driver's details. 36 years old, black eyes, 2 feet tall, dark hair, white skin. And, wow! Our missing clue is part of the presidential security. Things are getting interesting. "Get your team ready, we have a thief to catch," he instructed, reaching for his phone to dial the president's number. However, Detective Mitchell had more to show him. "Sir, you have to see this," she said, playing the footage of the law crew stepping out of the car. "The bank CCTV captured this," she explained as the chief stared at the bewildering footage. "Is that me?" he asked, hardly able to believe it. "Yes, sir, and also the President, Minister of Finance, and Senate President," Detective Mitchell replied. "We believe they used clones to gain easy access to the bank. Whoever the laws are, they're either in the presidential villa or have inside help. Otherwise, how do we explain this?" She zoomed in on the presidential stamp and signature used to seal the documents before the money was released. "You can leave now," the chief told her, "gather some men and investigate what happened at Gregg Automobile. This is getting more interesting and complicated."